Imposter syndrome says we're not authors.
But here's our books.
And here's our podcast. We are two book nerds talking about our indie author experiences
to spread the love of indie publishing and help other indies not feel alone.
Thanks for joining us, and now on to the show. Welcome back to another episode of Indie Book Nerds Podcast. We are your hosts, Jade Neoma
and Morgan Christensen. Today we're very excited to welcome today's guests, Zaylan Flynn and Megan Turner.
Hi!
So Zaylan Flynn and Megan Turner are the co-authors of To Be Damned, but Zaylan is the self-proclaimed bossy one. She is normally goblin sitting and brainstorming at 3 a.m. every day instead of sleeping. Megan Turner is an author by night and a nerd by day. When she's not running after her cat, she's either reading Romantasy books or writing them.
And then a brief introduction about their book. What happens when there is a game for a princess's hand, but there are three hearts tangled together? A guard, a princess, a duchess, and all with their own desires, all three racing against time before someone takes their love away.
Okay, guys, so let's go ahead and get started with, what is your novel To Be Damned about, and when did it release?
To Be Damned was really just supposed to be a fun little fluffy why choose love triangle situation that turned into a lot more because apparently I couldn't stop listening to Hosier and Sleep Token, and it turned into me brainstorming and thinking, oh, what if there was 9 layers of hell? And I was like, oh, well, To Be Damned, let's make it like the layer of lust, because that makes sense. I mean, what happens when your like lust goes all out of control and whatnot? Anyways, so that's how that came to be. And then it was released February 26th. So
yeah, awesome. And what is your guys' writing journey? What brought you to the writers that you are today?
Well, I feel like we both have different stories. I know Zaylan has her own journey, and for me, it was I kept seeing Zaylan writing, and it like I saw the amount of fun that she was having with it. And while we were playing D&D, I was like, you know what? How fun would it be to just write this character's story? And I started trying to write this character's story, and I was getting in a low about it because I was like, I don't know where I'm going with this, and I don't know if I can write. And then Zayla was like, why don't we write together then? And so I was like, sure. And then we just kind of just started writing together, and then I think we wrote it very quickly. So because of writing To Be Damned, I feel like I've got more confidence from writing now, and I know Zaylan's got a different story towards it.
I have another writing partner, and that's how Zaylan Flynn is. I'm Zaylan, he's Flynn. But anyways, besides the point irrelevant, I wouldn't have started writing if it wasn't for him. He and I used to role play a lot together, and he was like, you know, you can write like really well. Do you want to write with me? Because he wrote like short story synopses all the time. And I was like, I don't think you want me to write with you. He's like, no, seriously, like we write really, really well. Our characters have great chemistry. We can write really well. And I was like, sure. I didn't think he was serious for the longest time. I honestly didn't. And I have had fun with it. And then like Megan said she had a really bad low, and she's like, I don't think I can write. And I was like, girl, you can write. So her and I started writing To Be Damned that way because I was like, gotta get you out of that slump. You're a better writer than you think you are.
That's awesome. That's awesome that you guys, because I was going to ask how the co-writing works, because I've always done it by myself. I mean, sometimes I do it, sometimes with friends, but it's seldom. It's usually a really, individualized thing. So it's really cool that you guys are able to kind of like not only really support each other and just kind of pull each other, your skills out and stuff, and the passion for writing. What inspired your book To Be Damned?
I have really weird dreams, and I told her, I said, hey, I had this dream. Oh, hi, that's my cat. No, get
Writing
down for
assistant.
Yeah. I have really weird dreams, and I was like, hey, so you know that book that we were wanting to write? And I was like, her and I just were like, when she said she wanted to write, I was like, hey, you really like princess stories? We'll do a princess story. Give me a few days to like come up with like what we're gonna write, how the characters are, all that jazz. Come up with like a Pinterest board and playlist and whatnot. I think within like that night, I had a dream about this stranger who was obsessed with someone, and I just kind of wrote it very like honestly and open ended. And I was like, hey, by the way, I already have the Pinterest board. I have a playlist. Here are two of the characters in the story. I have 3 and 4 character kind of written up, but I kind of need your input. And here is the prologue. Tell me what you think. That's kind of how To Be Damned was born.
I do think she's being a bit modest because I think she had the prologue written within like an hour. Or like a general prologue written within 1 hour of me saying, hey, I kind of want to write a book. Within an hour, she has like a prologue kind of written, and then she had a Pinterest pictures sent to me. She had names sent to me with like their birthdays and how old they are, and I was like, that was within an hour, and I was like, oh my god, I was impressed.
Yes. Sometimes the best books fall in line like that.
Mhm.
Well, while writing all that, what was the hardest part about writing a love triangle?
Honestly, I didn't find it that difficult. Did you?
I didn't find it difficult. I actually find it pretty easy to write it. I think when it comes to difficulty is making sure we're giving enough attention to each characters, which I think because me and Zaylan are very much like this character, and this character, I feel like we did it very well. I think we give enough attention to every character, but I know some people who do try and write it do find it hard to give enough attention to every single character. But other than that, I think we found it pretty easy to do.
Yeah, I think the only hard part is certain characters I couldn't stand. And I was like, I don't want to write their chapter.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that it's probably the same just for multi POV in general, is just making
Mhm.
sure that you're giving everybody equal time. So, what made you choose the elements of your book that you did? For example, why did you choose to make Valen a personal guard, and why did you choose to have them compete for Arabella's hand in marriage?
I thought competition was gonna be really interesting because I don't see that a whole lot, and I'm a huge Knight's Tale fan, and I was like, I want something with that kind of element where they're fighting for it. Um, I do. I liked the idea. I don't know about you guys. I was really bad when I was younger, and I used to sneak my mom's books, and it always seemed to have this element of like forbidden romance between like a noble and like their guard. And I was like, I want to write something like that because
Mhm.
like I was like that was something that like really drew me in with fantasy, is that like chemistry and romance and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I think as well. We originally started writing To Be Damned as a why choose, and we were originally going to be like, all characters are going to end up together and blah blah blah, and the characters ended up speaking to us, being like, "This is not going to be a why choose. This is just a love triangle. Like, someone's going to end up with somebody. Like, it went very differently to how we originally started writing it."
mhm.
And it was just very funny how it turned out like it was a choose book in the end.
I definitely liked the idea too, because when you and I first started writing, like we kind of went back and forth with the Duchess, Erilyn. Like, does she know the princess? Are the princess and her close? And then like it was that they were close, but there was a falling out. Well, what was the falling out? And then that turns
Mhm.
into a spiral of, oh, well, some things happened, and now, oh my gosh, time's getting away from me. What am I gonna do? And then
Mhm.
I really liked that dynamic, and I'm very much of a pantser. Like I said, she gives me too much credit about the whole, Pinterest board and everything being all done and together and whatnot. But I'm very much I give ideas of what vibes I want, and then from there sometimes it evolves into something completely different because it doesn't fit for the character at all.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting that the characters told you that it was not going to go the way that you originally planned, and the characters were
Yeah.
like, listen, have you seen me and her together? It's got to be different than this. So, what was your favorite scene or dialogue to write, or both?
Okay, so my favorite scene is not what I wrote; it's what Zayla wrote, and it was I'm gonna butcher this line. If biting her lip was a religion, she did so faithfully. When Zayla wrote that line, I was like eating it up. Um, I've seen I actually really enjoyed writing, which is very not taboo, but like a lot of people don't like writing it, is the wedding scene. I actually really enjoyed writing that because I am a very gushy kind of person. I like all like the gushiness in like stories and the romance. So I actually really enjoyed writing the that scene. But I know Zaylan has a different one.
Mine's not so innocent. I really enjoyed writing Valen's solo self-care time. That chapter was my favorite chapter to write. I was listening to The Weeknd while I was driving, and I was like, "Oh, this gives me an idea." And I was like, "I literally need to get home right now." And I'm driving and I have my phone and I'm like, "Hey, Siri, I need you to make a note of blah 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 while I'm driving because I'm like, I'm going to forget this." And I was like, if I forget, write down was listening to The Weeknd, and I'm pretty sure I can't remember off the top of my head, but I have it in the playlist. But anyways, it was one of The Weeknd songs, and I had never had thought of something like that before, but it was great. Favorite quote? I don't know. I really liked if biting her lip was a religion, she did so faithfully, because that was something that Erilyn did a lot. She it was one of her little ticks is she bit her lip. Like she didn't give a whole lot to her expression of what she was thinking, whether she was nervous. She was very much a kind of character that was headstrong, and one of her nervous ticks was biting her lip, and she didn't even realize that she did it herself. So, and it was something that, he just caught on really well and he always pointed out. So,
Now that's a really good line. I would eat that up too.
thank
Um, what was the most difficult scene or dialogue to write in contrast?
there is a particular scene between Valen and Erilyn that was really hard for me to write, mainly because I'm really hard on Erilyn. Megan had to tell me all the time, leave that girl alone. And I'm like, there was something about her that I loved and adored, and for some reason my bar and my expectations for her was way up here, and every time she made a mistake, I mean, granted, like I'm the writer, I cannot make the mistake, right? I can write it, not the mistake, but it's something that she would do, and I'm like, every time I'm like, oh, girl, what are you doing? Stop! But like, there is a particular scene between the two of them where it's just like he was broken and vulnerable, and she was just like, there was this unspoken where there was very few words exchanged, but it was very much body language, and I found that incredibly hard to write because I'm a very vocal person.
I think I have two different scenes that were hard for me to write, and that was for two different reasons. So there was a scene where Arabella had seen something happen with the other two, and she was like trying to like running circles around it, being like, "So I saw you last night," and like Zaylan was right in the other part, and like we were kind of bouncing off each other for this because I needed her help with it. And Arabella's like trying to get her to admit it, and she wasn't admitting it. And I was like, I feel like I'm playing chess, but never getting the checkmate. And I feel like that's just Erilyn. Like, Erilyn's not giving anything away, and it was really hard because I had the princess in my head going like, "What? Say this," and it was just not getting anything back, and it was like really hard to write it. But also, another scene I actually found really hard to write was the solo scene for Arabella, which I did not plan to write. I was challenged to write by Zaylan. And I was like, I've never done this. I'm just going to write it. And then I ended up writing it. And I was like, I'm never looking at that page ever again.
These characters, man, it sounds like they run you through the ringer. Which begs the question, which character gave you the most trouble as an author? Though I feel like we've kind of gone over that just a smidge, but tell me more.
Erilyn.
Erilyn.
Oh my gosh. That woman is so headstrong, man. She's so stubborn and so headstrong. I love I don't hate her. I love and dislike her at the same time because I like characters who are traditionally unlikable. So it's very much it tends to be more of like your stoic women who are like have this hard shell on the outside, but they're just absolutely broken on the inside. But you can't seem to get through that hard shell to get through to them and see what's going on. And so like trying to find a way for her to like share but at the same time but not be out of character was incredibly hard, I felt like. And it's still I don't know. She was very incredibly hard to write and to deal with in general.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, it sounds like you put her through a lot, but she also equally put you through a lot.
She's like, really? She's like, I don't know whoever this god is, but you.
Well, which character since publishing has been on your mind the most? Like, which character can you not get out of your head for good or bad reasons?
Alan, because I always loved the knights. I don't know. I feel like she did a really good job at writing him in the sense of like he had one kind of feeling with like he had I'm in love with this girl when it came to the princess, but then when it came to the duchess, it was like I desire her, and it was like he had two different feelings, but like in the end, like he always goes for love, and I don't know, I'm kind of that girl that's like tee I like the prince. So Valen's always on my mind.
I think Erilyn, just because I have plans for her, but I don't know exactly what those plans are yet.
So you're putting her through more, and so she can put you through more, and that's why you're locked in a toxic relationship with her, I think.
No, I am. I can't seem to shake her off.
Well, I'm going to do something especially evil to you guys. We're going to play a very quick round of F, Marry, Kill between Valen, the Duchess, and the Princess. Who wants to go first?
You put me first? Okay. I'm gonna kill the princess. Because I wrote her. And I need, I need my boy to, love me. I will fuck Erilyn because, she's a temptress. She's probably got experience. And I would marry Valen because he's the best boy.
Definitely not my choices. I was gonna say kill Erilyn, fuck Valen, and marry the princess. She was the only problematic one. She's down for long term, man.
Yeah, you know what? I've read your guys' book, and I agree. I think I would marry the princess. I feel like she's the lover girl. At the end of the day, she wants to stay with you for a really long time and grow in your relationship together.
Yeah, exactly.
She's now in my head going, "Aw."
Well, so glad you guys were able to tell us all that. I would not be able to pick through my characters very easily. So when you guys write, do you listen to music when you write, or do you have any sort of other like traditional, you have to do every time before getting words on the page?
I definitely listen to music. I have to overstimulate my brain as much as possible. If I hear no silence, my brain is thinking way too loud and I can't focus on anything. So I'm listening to music. I usually have the TV going. I'm not really paying attention what's on the TV, but I usually have the TV going, just as background noise, and then I usually light some incense too. So
yeah, for me it's just TV noise. I sometimes have music on in the background. But normally I'll just put like a TV show on that I've watched before, and then I'll just write whilst it's on in the background. And I remember like Zaylan being like, "Have you chose music for each chapter?" And I was like, "No." And like I've been trying to be better at listening to music while I'm writing and try to like choose different musics for each chapter I'm writing now. Try to get better at it.
You're gonna have to give an episode number, like a instead of giving a song, you're gonna have to give a timestamp in an episode, and you're like, this is the feeling that this
Mhm.
chapter encompasses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. What are your guys' publishing plans for the future? What's ahead for your series?
Well, it's a loose plan. The loose plan is I want there's gonna be 9 books. There's already another one out, but I want to go through all 9 layers of hell. And each one I say kind of read as a standalone. Like, you don't need to read each one if you don't want to, but there will be like little Easter eggs of previous books or future books or characters that might show up in each books, and you might not quite get the same like emotional impact if you see them if you don't read all of them, but it's not necessarily required unless you get to the last book, which again, you just won't get the same emotional impact if you read it if you don't read all of them. So there's that, but I definitely wanted to write them in a way that it didn't really matter if you read all of them or not. So,
Yeah, and so you said you have another one out. Which layer of hell is that one supposed to be?
Greed, it was my favorite one. It was my favorite and hated one at all the same time.
Yeah, and that one's called The Missing Piece, right?
hmm
Yeah. And what about you, Megan? What do you have going ahead for the future?
Uh, for this series or just in general?
Just in general, your publishing plans for the future. You did
Well,
have a book just released.
I just released a vampire book. It's called Memento Mori. It's a sassy vampire book. Where men have all the rights and women have no rights, and women are always seen to be witches and get burned at the stake. And so when a certain character gets turned into a vampire, she decides to kill all the men that killed all the innocent people. And then she decides to go on her journey of killing her mate, because she thinks that he turned her into a vampire. And then a lot of things come to light, and you don't know in the story who to trust and who to, pick to be on your team. And it ends in a cliffhanger. So sorry. But that's out now, and I have a book 2 that I need to write.
I relate to that very heavily. I also have a book too that I need to write. So, what made you guys choose indie publishing?
I don't like rules to follow.
Good
Just like
reason?
people telling her what to do.
I can't even tell myself what to do.
Mhm.
It's bad.
Yeah.
No, I know, like, with traditional publishing, you have like timelines and you have to have a certain amount of time and this, that, and the other thing. And I didn't want to be restricted at all. I wanted to have it on my own time, because if I want to, I can write 3 books in, a month. And then other times I can barely write 1 book in 1 month. So I didn't want that restriction at all whatsoever. And I wanted to put it out when I wanted to put it out, and things happen when I want it to happen, because I know there's also like restrictions sometimes. You don't always get to pick your own titles, and I love picking out titles. Sometimes you don't get to pick out your own book cover, and I like picking out or making it, or whatever it may be. I like the freedom a lot.
Mhm.
I think those are very good reasons. I think the freedom is one of the best parts about indie publishing is you get to maintain a lot of control. But Megan, what about you? What is the reason you chose indie publishing?
I think I just saw the way Zaylan was writing, and I was like, that's just all I really saw going forward. I don't think I could go forward with a publishing company telling me what to do and what to write and how to write and deadlines. If someone tells me, "Oh, you have to write it by this day," I'm like, I'm not gonna do it by this day. There's no chance. No way in hell I'm gonna be able to do it that by a certain day. I feel like it was a bit of Zaylan is rubbing off on me. In the sense of, if people tell me what to do, I'm like, it's never gonna happen.
Well, I see you guys do love indie publishing a lot. Obviously, you guys have made lots of friends in the indie publishing world. You guys have put out your own books now. So, what does indie publishing mean to you?
I think it means I've thought about this question. Okay, all right, I have thought about this question, but I think in general it just honestly just freedom and whatever expression, whatever is written and whatnot. There's no limitation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also a community as well. I feel like self-published authors, you don't really see much of them interacting with other people. Whereas I feel like I see a lot of indie authors actually communicating with people that read their books. So like if I read a book and I tell an indie author like I've really enjoyed your book, they a lot of the time they do reply back to you. And I feel like it's just become like a big community and I love being in it.
Mhm.
So yeah.
It's a really big and welcoming community, which I feel is evident in your guys' co-authoring because I really want to pick you guys apart for that. Just because co-authoring, I haven't done that. I am such an introvert. I couldn't imagine sharing my stories with somebody else. So, what is your co-author process like, and how does it work for each of you?
I think with her, I said it a lot during our writing experience or our writing journey with To Be Damned. I'm like, if I'm being too bossy, you let me know, and I'll be like, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do this, and I have very much like I joke about it all the time. You know the gif of the guy with the whiteboard, and he's like, we got this going on, and we're gonna put this. Like I feel like that happens in my brain consistently nonstop, and so I end up like just word vomiting. Okay, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and we didn't write the book from prologue to end. It was a lot of prologue. Now we're doing chapter 5. Oh, we got to do the ball. Oh, now we got to do the marriage thing. And then like I went through and just like organized it and I was like, okay, now we're missing this. Okay, hold on. This doesn't fit here. We're going to delete this chapter. This didn't work out the way I wanted it to, so we're going to change it up or whatever it may be. But it was a very much like I felt like I was bossy throughout the entire thing and I'm like, if I'm being too bossy, tell me I'm being too bossy because that's like literally all I hear all the time is like, "Ah, you're so bossy." And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. I don't know how else to communicate, I guess. I don't know. But like I tell her all the time and I was like, if I'm being too bossy, you let me know. If you have a different idea of how you want things to go. And she's like, no, 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 I like that idea. And I'm like, all right. She was very much like I felt like I was too bossy, but she tells me all the time I wasn't, but I think she's too nice. Now with my other writing partner, the experience is completely different. It is like night and day. And with him, like, yeah, I still have that feeling that I'm being bossy, but at the same time, like, so like with Megan, her and I would write chapters alone. So she would write a chapter and I would write a chapter. And very rarely did we interact in those chapters. Like I think I wrote many chapters with the princess in it. And I was like, "Hey, I need you to read the responses that I wrote for the princess and see if it like matches with her character and I'm not going outside the realm of what she would say or anything like that or if we need to tweak the dialogue or anything like that." And she would read it and she may have made changes or I may have made changes, but there was very rarely a time that her and I were interacting within those chapters, except for like a few couple. Whereas my other writing partner, it's completely different, and him and I are consistently going back and forth throughout the entire chapter. And like, I'm not very good with fight scenes, so he would write the fight scene or vice I'm not he's not very good with the emotional connection and so he'll ask me to help him with the emotional connection with two characters or whatever. So like there's very much interweaving and then there's the way that we did it where it was like she wrote a chapter, I wrote a chapter, and we just made sure that all the characters stayed within the lines of where they need to be.
Yeah.
So
I think I think with To Be Damned, it was a lot of like you said, we both wrote different chapters and like we had so many chapters in front of us. And I remember being like, okay, Zaylan, you're jigsawing them together because I'm like, I can't do that. But what I enjoyed about co-writing, which is because obviously I started writing Momentum Mori a very long time ago, and I kind of gave up with it because I was like, I feel like I can't do it. And then with the co-writing, you've got somebody to bounce ideas off, and you've got somebody to be there to be like, support you and be like, okay, this is what we can do with the story. Whereas with Momentum Mori, I did have that because, you've got your friends there for you.
mhm.
But with Memento Mori, I felt like I was talking to myself a lot, and the character was in my head a lot, shouting at me for my decisions for her. So I feel like I got a little bit more crazy when writing alone, whereas with a co-writer, it was just easy to bounce ideas off. And it's two different experiences. I would do both of them 1,000 times all over again. But it was a lot of fun. It was definitely a good experience.
Yeah. So how often were you guys communicating specifically about To Be Damned? Was it like an everyday thing, multiple times a day?
Every
Yes,
day.
multiple. Every day, multiple times a day. If we weren't in voice chat
Mhm.
talking about the book, I was consistently sending her messages like, "Hey, I just had this dream. Is there a way we can fit this into the story?" Or, "Hey, I was
Mhm.
listening to this song and I got this crazy idea and I seen this scene in my head while the song was playing. What do you think of this scene?" Or like vice versa. She would be like, "Oh, I thought of this scene. What do you think of this scene?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a good idea." Like there was a consistently bouncing back and forth all the time, day and night.
There were a few times where there was chapters that didn't make it into the book
Oh
because
yeah.
it was just like it wasn't that it were bad. It was just like it just didn't fit how the story was going. Because, like I said before, we originally wrote it as a why choose book, and if it, our idea was to make all three characters together in the end, and because it didn't really fit with how things were going and how the characters were feeling, we ended up taking a lot of the chapters out. Um, and that I think they're just a little chapters for us now.
Yeah.
So were you guys just doing like you would only do one character's POV and then Dalen would do the other one?
Mhm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
guys would just kind of switch back and forth chapter after chapter. That's really interesting. The co-author experience is definitely very unique, but I think another thing that makes indie publishing really really cool is the fact that you guys could even do this, that you guys put it up to yourselves and said this is how we want to split the work that we're going to do and this is how we want to make this story come together. And I also think it's really interesting to hear that so many things changed along the way to getting To Be Damned to be where it is today. Is like you guys were like, oh wow, but what about this, and what if we added this, and then okay, well now we have to take this chapter out. It's really interesting to see that you guys made it work for you. You know what I mean? It was like this
Mhm.
partnership that you were like, no, it's gonna work and we're gonna write this book. Or even if it was Zaylan who was like, come on Megan, we can do this.
She
And
she
as
thinks
much
she
as
was
we
bossy.
well, here's another evidence that I was bossy. Okay, all right. I know I'm telling on myself, but she's too damn nice. But anyways, there as much as I like to communicate and I talk into circles and I know I talk fast. I'm trying to slow down. Anyways, besides the point, irrelevant. Um, there was a lot of times like she would write a POV and I would write a POV. So I wrote Valen, Erlen's, and then she wrote the princess, and then we had different like little hodgepodge of like spot POVs. They weren't like main POVs, but they were like spot POVs. So like the king, and then we had the stranger, and then I think we had someone else. No, it was the king and the stranger. Anyways, besides the point, irrelevant. I think we were going to write someone else, and I decided I did not want to introduce his thoughts just yet because he was going to be in another book. Anyways, uh, and there was a lot of times like I was writing these POVs and I was telling her, okay, read this, tell me what you think, and she'd be like, "Do you want me to write another POV?" And I'm like, "No, no, 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 it's fine. I have a certain way that I want the chapter to go and how like they're thinking and what they're doing." And she's like, "Well, just tell me what you're thinking." And I'm like, "I can't communicate that right now. I'm just gonna write it, and you tell me if we need to change it. Like, I am not heartbroken if we need to change it at all. I just can't communicate what the scene I'm seeing in my head until I write it."
Mhm.
That's awesome. I'm just trying to still wrap my head around. I mean, I would be bossy too, probably. I would have this idea and I wouldn't be able to let go of it. I mean, there are scenes that could be cut, I'm sure, in all books, whether you co-write or not. So I'm just like, whoa. I would be the one messaging every second of every day, and then be driving in the car and be like, oh God, I need to remember to text them, once I get home, because I also listen to the music in the car and then get an idea.
I
Um,
think there were so many times I sent her snaps too, and I'm like, "Hey, remind me to tell you about this later."
My
awesome.
memory's worse than hers.
Well, pivoting over from writing itself into publishing, what was your guys' biggest obstacles when it came to publishing the book? Like, for instance, after they were written, what did you encounter that slowed down that publishing
I
process?
hated editing. I hated it
Oh.
so much. There was so many times Megan was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we need to edit. Are we gonna edit today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we'll edit today." And I'm like, "I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it." I think it was bad. She had to like literally drag me along. I'm like, she's like, "Come on, we gotta edit. Let's get the editing done." And I'm like, "But I don't want to."
It's funny because a lot of the time I remember keep saying to Zaylan, I was like, okay, we need to write today. Okay, we need to edit today. And then she would start editing and she'd like share her screen so we were both looking at it and we were both looking at the same lines, see what needed editing and all this. Which is great because having two eyes on something, at some point she would see something that I didn't see and then I would see things that she didn't see.
Mhm.
But halfway through, I could just hear Zaylan's like energy go down, and I was like, "We could stop. We've only done half chapter, but we can stop if you need to." Because I was like, I felt so bad because I felt like I was forcing Zaylan to do it, and it was stressing her out. And I was like, "Yeah, we could just finish it off tomorrow if you need to." So I was like, I was confident at the beginning with like, "Hey, we need to edit," but then towards like the middle of it, I was like, "We can stop. We can stop. We can stop."
I'm definitely. I need someone who's gonna force me to edit, but at the same time, don't force me to edit because if it's a really fine line she had to walk because I need someone to push me to edit, but I don't need someone to like literally push me.
You need the accountability. You don't need someone actually making you do it.
Yes.
That's so funny. Well, besides editing, was there anything that you encountered like Ingram Spark, KDP, any of those things that really got in your way or made things
The
difficult?
the cover didn't want to fit right, and I felt like I threw a fit a lot. I say it was throwing a fit, and I'm like, and she's like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, the cover doesn't fit exactly, and they're throwing a fit about it, and it's not good. It's not coming out the way they want it. And so like I'm going in, I'm resizing everything, and then making sure everything's within the lines because KDP's really, really, really picky about everything being within that red line. But at the same time, like every time I make sure that it's in the red line and you upload it, it seems like the red line moved one way or another, and I'm like, I swear I had everything within the red line. What is this thing's problem?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're the one who made the cover in the first place too. So it wasn't like you got to refer to somebody else and be like, "Hey, the cover is the wrong size. Can you fix it for me?" It was all on you to figure it out. And that's the
Exactly.
spirit of indie publishing.
Yeah, and then poor Megan's over here. She's like, "Do you want me to try?" And I'm like, "No, it's fine. I already have the file. I'm already logged into Canva. I'm trying to figure it out. It's just, I'm wanting to shake it right now and throw my computer out the window."
I didn't know how I kept offering to help, but my computer is really bad, so I don't know what I could have actually done. But I was like, is there anything I can do?
Moral
No?
support.
Okay, I'll be moral support.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what is your guys' best piece of advice for people who want to self-publish that you wish you had known ahead of time?
Get art readers.
Get
Do
ARC
the art
readers.
sign. Do the sign up. Get art readers. I have 3 books out right now, and I didn't do art readers with any of them, and I wish I did. It would have helped. Those reviews help early on a lot, whether they're good, bad, and indifferent. And don't look at the reviews. Don't look at them.
I agree. That's a really good piece of advice. Don't ever look at the reviews. Do get the ARC readers. Do get the reviews. Don't read them.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I if someone told me just enjoy writing it and don't be too hard on yourself, I feel like I probably would have needed that when I started writing. I think that's why I gave up halfway through writing my first book. Because I just gave up on it, and if I had, Zayla did her best by getting me to write a different book, which gave me the confidence.
Mhm.
But I think I needed someone to be like, okay, what you're writing is good. You just need to carry on. You just need to have confidence in yourself. Um, which is indie publishing, is a lot of confidence in yourself and your writing.
Yeah,
Imposter
I think
syndrome
that
is awful. Sorry.
I
Yeah.
think that's great. I think
Yeah.
that's great advice to be like, just enjoy the process of writing more. I think
Mhm.
even now, I'm sure Morgan probably feels the same, that we've all kind of hit that wall one way or another where you have ideas for where you want the book to go, or maybe you need to get some editing done, or maybe there's some other tasks associated with publishing you need to get done, and you hit that wall. And I think we need to remind ourselves, like, this is about fun. Like, the reason we started this, the reason we write, is because we enjoy the process of writing. And yes, unfortunately, that does mean editing, and that does mean trying to publish it and doing all the tasks. But yeah, Megan, I think that that's amazing advice for any indie out there, is to really remember to connect yourself with your story. And if you're feeling disconnected from it, remind yourself why you started typing away in the first place, you know?
And if you don't get the inspiration for your book, just read more.
Another
Bad
really good
influence.
piece of advice. Yeah.
Buy more books.
Well, here we are at our last question for today. What is the one thing you wish came easier to you when it came to either writing, editing, or marketing? Just one piece of the indie publishing process you wish came to you easier.
Editing. But I feel like we've touched on the editing a lot, so I won't say that. I'll say try to get people to see it on TikTok is really difficult. It's trying to find the right hashtags, the right kind of media. I feel like it's difficult. Sometimes I'll make a video of a book and it'll get 500 views, and then the next day I'll do like another video and I'll get like 20 views. So that's what I found the most difficult about trying to market the books.
Mhm.
Is just trying to find the right TikTok videos to make.
Mhm. I don't know. I always commend people who can write on their own, because I've never wrote a book on my own. I have always had some co-author with me, always.
Are there any future goals, upcoming events, releases for everybody that you want to mention?
I have a lot of ideas. Um, I keep making up ideas and then I don't write them because now I've finished my first solo book. I've become like, okay, I don't need to write anymore for a while, right, guys?
No, you have
Um,
to get right back on it, Megan.
it's a case of like I know what I want to do for book two, and I know the whole I've got my whole storyline in my head, but it's trying to start the book, and part of me is like, should I just do what I did with To Be Damned and just write chapters and just bring it together? Um, and that might be the case for book two. But I do have a book two for Memento Mori. I keep hounding Zaylan to, co-write a dragon book with me. Maybe we'll do it eventually.
She writes Momentum Mori and ends it like that, and she's like, I'm like, no, you need to write book 2 because you said we won't get answers until book 3.
Nope.
Hello, we need more.
I don't know. I also had a dream like a few days ago of writing a book about a fantasy book that has a lot of like things to do with Alzheimer's. Because Alzheimer's is a big part of like my family. My nana, who was very dear to me, had Alzheimer's, so part of me wants to bring out a book to do with that, and have the proceeds to go to a charity that caters to that. But that might be like so far into the future. But yeah, I think my main goal is second book of Momentum Mori and trying to convince Zaylan to write with me again.
I think for me, I don't know. I've written nonstop. I have not edited anything. I need to edit. I have, I think, 12 manuscripts. 4 of them are the islands. So 4 different the islands. 9 layers of hell. Don't listen to that. Oh god. Anyways, um yeah, I don't know. I need to edit. I need to edit really bad. I do, and this is, next year, April, there is a book that I want to release, and that's kind of near and dear to me, which is kind of a solo book. Not solo book, a standalone book. So,
Oh, that sounds awesome. Well, Zaylin, I know that you also have The Missing Piece. So, just to plug that a little bit, I'm going to read just a little snippet from your synopsis that you had up. All Astra knows is she woke up in the woods while it was raining. She had no name other than the one given to her by the Druids. She had no memories before waking up. 5 years later, she has made a life and runs into someone who seems convinced she is their missing person.
Megan's Memento Mori, which we've talked about a little bit, has recently been released. When Eleanor, a simple farm girl with a secret, meets Oscar, a charming lord with secrets of his own, everything appears to be wondrous, but things are not always what they seem. With witches and vampires, betrayals and friendships, this book will have you second guessing who to trust and leave you utterly spellbound.
Ooh, sounds amazing. Do you guys want to go ahead and give us your social media handles so people know where to find you after the podcast?
I have a TikTok. It should just be Megan Turner Alpha, and I do have an Instagram that I don't really use as much, but I have it. It's Natsumi cosplay because I cosplay because I'm a nerd.
I think on TikTok I know. Jesus. Anyways, it's Zaylan Flynn, and then on Instagram,
Or is
it's
it
Zaylan Dream. It's
Zaylan Dream?
But I need to change it to Zaylan Flynn if possible. But it's Zaylan Dream.
Thank you to Zaylin and Megan for being here with us for an amazing interview. Next week, you'll be able to catch Alan Shivers, author of the Namaste Slasher, here on the Indie Book Nerds podcast.